and reacting to the Micah Parsons of it all. He was traded late Thursday afternoon to the Green Bay Packers for 2 first-round picks and defensive tackle Kenny Clark. Now, as we move into week 1, the Green Bay Packers are getting ready for a division showdown with Detroit, and the Dallas Cowboys go on the road and open up at defending champion Philadelphia on Thursday. This, now that the dust has settled of this, does it change your opinion of how the trade went down, of how each team looks, Myron, going into their opener?
No, I mean, I have the same opinion. I'm still shocked that this happened, that Jerry traded someone of that caliber to an NFC team that has dismissed them from the playoffs multiple times. It just doesn't make sense, and I think it certainly puts Green Bay in a position to be right there with Philly in the NFC playoff picture. And I think Dallas, to me, takes a step back, and Jerry can sell it as a rebuild, but Courtney, we saw him pay Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb and trade for George Pickens and do all these things to suggest that they were going for it. There's a Netflix documentary about them going for it, and now all of a sudden this doesn't matter because you're building for the future. Make it make sense, please.
Let's hear from Dak Prescott, the Dallas Cowboys quarterback. There's plenty of reaction to get into here. His reaction from the Parsons trade was what?
I can't say I was completely surprised, but I definitely didn't think he was going to get traded. I'll say that. But just with the way that their negotiations went down, obviously, to some extent, I mean, hell, y'all were asking me questions. It seemed like it got personal in their hands. So that's why I wasn't surprised.
It's interesting because I believe it was this time last week he's out there saying, I expect Micah to be on the field on week 1 during week 1. And then all of a sudden, he's, pivoting course. You're saying, well, I'm not surprised. It got so personal. Obviously, things fell apart. My biggest takeaway from all of this is that these players no longer have to answer questions about something that they had no business answering questions about because they had no business in the negotiations of Micah Parsons and the deal that he wasn't able to strike with the Dallas Cowboys. What bothers me about this, and this happens all the time, is the rhetoric that now comes out that wasn't coming out when Brian Schottenheimer, Dak Prescott, all of his teammates were talking about, we support Micah, we expect him to be out there, he's been in the building, he's done everything right. Of course, now there's some people who remain anonymous who end up backtracking. There's an interesting nugget here from Sports Illustrated's Albert Breer that some of Micah's teammates with the Cowboys viewed him as, quote, egotistical and self-centered and didn't have a positive view of his podcast, The Edge with Micah Parsons. Quote, Martin, Lamb, and Prescott, meaning CeeDee Lamb, Zach Martin, and Dak Prescott, the three players who were in contract disputes with the team and ended up getting their deals. Quote, they are or were very popular in the locker room. That's not the case with Parsons, who has rankled teammates in different ways, seen by some as egotistical and self-centered. His podcast has created issues, too, that go all the way up to quarterback Dak Prescott, end quote. That is from Albert Breer of Sports Illustrated. It's convenient timing. Now that the guy's out of there, now that he's no longer somebody you have to answer questions about, now you want to drag him through the mud here? If you didn't like the podcast, pull the DeMarcus Lawrence and say it up front like he did during the offseason. Not wait until the guy gets traded and he's not on your team anymore. To me, that's soft.
Yeah, and I don't buy it. Who are the players who said it, right? I think this is one of those situations where anyone will say anything in a moment like this. Their owner does press conferences every single day and after games. You really can't mention ego to me when it comes to the Cowboys because your owner has the biggest ego of anybody in sports. Micah Parsons was a generational talent, not the way we say that with Arch Manning. A legit generational talent, and the numbers prove as much. And now he's gone. And I think you're going to have some players scrambling to try to justify this and how this makes the team get better. But let's be honest, Dak Prescott has been handed a really difficult situation just weeks before the start of the season, and now you got to figure out how to do even more on offense after losing a guy like Micah Parsons. Egotistical? I don't even know what that word means. Was he going up to teammates and trash-talking guys? Was he a bad locker room presence? I never heard any of that until this trade, Courtney, but the bottom line is they lost a guy that you're not going to replace with draft picks. You're not going to replace with a trade. You lost a guy who's going to be a Hall of Famer one day, all because of ego. but not Micah Parsons' ego, Jerry Jones' ego.
Well, some might say it is Micah Parsons' ego and the ego of his agent, too, because it's not like he got $1 million more on his contract than the last highest paid edge rusher, which would be TJ Watt at $41 a year. I'm still stunned. On this Monday morning, 4 days now after the trade went down, the $47 million a year price tag. Like, there's one thing to reset the market, but to completely destroy the market now, like, this is very, like, much akin to what the quarterback market looked like after Deshaun Watson got his $230 million fully guaranteed deal. We know that it's an outlier. It's not going to be where the bar is set. But when you see that figure, if you're his teammates, you're thinking, hey, probably good for you for getting your bag. But geez, like, did you expect them to pay you that much here? Like, to not just, like, it's not just a pay raise. Like, that's such an absurd figure. I can understand all these days later why the Cowboys think, okay, if that was what they were looking for, that was never going to be in our price range. Meanwhile, the Green Bay Packers are going for it very clearly, all in on this season and trying to, win a Super Bowl. If you're doing that, though, in light of what you and I are talking about here with what comes with Micah Parsons, will he be able to even do his podcast up in Green Bay? Will he want to do the Edge with Micah Parsons? If that's what his teammates in Dallas are saying about him, is there any validity to, like, how he's going to be received and maybe not a positive way in Green Bay? I don't know if that has a carryover effect. I tend to think that you get a clean slate from a player who said, oh, I'm healthy now. My back feels great. Money cures all. I don't think it's going to be an issue. Like, I know that, like, the way that this is being painted, him getting slandered on the way out of town, let's call it what it is, I don't think that carries over to Green Bay now that he gets his fresh start away from the team that, his relationship with had deteriorated so badly.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest about Green Bay, right? They dealt with Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers. I think they're going to be okay with Micah Parsons, right? Like, if you're worried about distractions, I mean, they had two guys who did that daily, especially Aaron Rodgers at the end of his tenure. I just don't buy when teams in this moment say all of these things, because I didn't hear one person say during these contract negotiations leading up to the season, coming into the preseason, I heard not one player say, we don't want Micah Parsons. He's not worth the money. I didn't hear any of those reports. I didn't read any of those reports. So I'm not going to suddenly buy that, oh, he was egotistical. He got $47 million a year, and that does sound crazy. But guess what, Courtney? He got it. So him and his agent have to be saying, okay, Dallas wouldn't pay it, but we believe that was the market for him, and they were proven right. At the end of the day, it did not feel like Jerry Jones was willing to get past his own ego to deal with Micah Parsons in the way that he should have, which is with his agent and having a formal negotiation instead of whatever they were doing in some backroom handshake kind of situation. Micah Parsons is not a guy you can lose. I don't care what the situation was or what the price tag was.
It's Unsportsmanlike on ESPN Radio and ESPN2. The show, as always, presented by Progressive Insurance. No Evan, no Canty, no Michelle. They're back tomorrow, but you've got Courtney Cronin and Myron Metcalf with you here on this Labor Day Monday. Let's hear from Brian Schottenheimer, head coach of the Dallas Cowboys in his first year, now 3 days away from kickoff, what Micah Parsons' loss means for the 2025 Dallas Cowboys.
Well, again, I think, nothing's changed. My goals haven't changed. Our team goals haven't changed. I hit the players on that today after I talked about, just the tough couple days, for all the guys. And it doesn't change. The standard is the standard. I said that. We, with all the new pieces and people we had in there, I needed to hit the goal, which is to win a World's Championship. I needed to hit that. We also want to build one of the greatest professional sports cultures in the world, and that's part of the deal. When you add new pieces, you have to make sure they understand your vision, they have to understand your culture, they have to understand the way we view this game, and I think that's something we take a lot of pride in.
What standard is he talking about? The standard in Dallas has been dysfunction for the better part of the last decade for a team that still thinks every year that it's going to contend for a Super Bowl no matter what. It hasn't been back to that stage in 30 seasons, but they still believe, for whatever delusional reason, that their standard is better than the other teams in the NFL. Yet what has it gotten you?
Yeah, nothing. I mean, not in 30 years, right? There's almost like the vibe is is like some weird, I don't know, organization, like just the way everybody just says the same company line, no matter what. But I also think Brian Schottenheimer, not surprisingly, and Mike McCarthy, I'm sure, is somewhere saying, hey, man, it's been put in a bad situation by Jerry Jones. Like, we're in a situation where, again, a coach comes into a year, doesn't have all the players he thought he would have, dealing with drama and controversy that is not centering his team and the task they have ahead. And now he has to answer questions about something that he has really no tie to. He wasn't in the negotiating room with Micah Parsons. He wasn't there with Jerry and his agent and all these other pieces. But now he's being asked to coach a team that just got worse in the last 72 hours. And I think that, to me, is going to be a challenge for Brian Schottenheimer going forward.
They're going to have to get in shootouts to win games. And,
Yep.
I know Jerry tried to rationalize, like, oh, we made this move because we need to improve our run defense, as nonsensical as that sounds. Okay, if that's the case, if other teams are running all over you, can Dak and this offense that now has George Pickens alongside CeeDee Lamb, can they score enough points to win games that way? I don't think you're going to be able to see that week 1 when they go to Philadelphia to face that offense, the offense that has A.J. Brown, that has Devontae Smith, that has Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts at the helm of it all. Like, this is something that's going to have to evolve over time, but the only way they hit that standard that Brian Schottenheimer is talking about is if you have an offense that can carry the load this season. Frankly, we haven't seen it in Dallas like that in a very long time. They've been a good team that can win 12 games in the regular season when things are firing all the way that they need to. Even when they had the number 1 offense in the NFL a couple years ago, Myron, we still poked holes in what they were doing, and it eventually fell apart at the time it mattered most in the postseason. I don't know if they're capable of doing it this year. I think that's too much of a weight to put on the offensive side of the ball when we've seen how that's worked for Dallas in the past. Now, they've obviously paid Dak Prescott and a lot of players on offense handsome amounts of money. They're expected to do that. Just not sure that that's going to be realistic for them, given how much their roster has realistically changed on one side of the ball going into week 1. It's Unsportsmanlike on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Straight ahead, were there any other teams in on Micah Parsons? We know that Green Bay closed the deal, but what about some of the other contenders in the NFL? We'll get into that coming up next, but first, Myron's got this